I the jerk for not telling my husband I was pregnant until I knew I wanted to keep the baby? I, 30F, found out I was pregnant 3 months ago, and I didn't tell my husband, Daniel, 32M, right away. This wasn't because I was trying to keep a secret, but because I honestly wasn't sure how I felt about having a child. Daniel and I had always agreed we didn't want kids, and I was on birth control, so this pregnancy came as a complete shock. When I found out, I was terrified. I've never wanted to be a mom, and I didn't know if I could handle it. I thought about terminating the pregnancy, but I wasn't sure if that was the right decision either. I didn't want to bring Daniel into the conversation until I'd figured out what I wanted to do, because I didn't want him to pressure me one way or the other. It took me weeks of agonizing over my decision, but I ultimately decided I wanted to keep the baby. Once I made up my mind, I sat Daniel down and told him everything about the pregnancy, my initial doubts, and my decision to keep the baby. I thought he'd be shocked, but supportive, but instead, he was furious. He said I'd betrayed his trust by not telling him right away, and that this was a decision we should have made together. I tried to explain that I wasn't trying to exclude him, but that I needed time to process everything on my own. I told him I was afraid he'd try to convince me to have an abortion if I told him before I was sure of my own feelings. He said I clearly didn't trust him enough to handle the situation maturely, and now he's questioning whether we can raise a child together if I kept something so major from him. Since then, things have been tense between us. Daniel is still upset, and while he says he'll support me and the baby, he's been distant and withdrawn. Some friends and family members think I did the right thing by taking the time I needed to make a decision. But others think I was wrong to shut Daniel out of such a life-altering event. So, am I the jerk for not telling my husband I was pregnant until I knew I wanted to keep the baby? Or was I justified in taking the time I needed to make the decision on my own?